Hey everybody, welcome to today's episode of the What Worked For You show. Today we're going to talk about a subject that it's in a world that there's been a lot of change lately with the world of AI, and it is the world of copywriting. Now, copywriting, as long as people have been writing things down, people have been using words to sell. So copy is important. It's important when we tell stories, right? As long as there's storybooks, there's copy, right? And so but how do we get good at it? We all learn how to grow up and write copy, but are we good at actually using it? That's part of what we're talking about today and a whole host of other things. Our guest is a small business copywriter. She's a speaker. She's got a podcast that she's rocking and rolling with where she dives deep in this subject, very niche about copy. How do we use it? How do we use it to help businesses? And she's helped over 118 businesses. And that's not just business, that's different sectors. So she's very experienced in a wide range of business needs to get people to use their marketing internally, externally, to take their businesses to another level. Emily Aborn, it's a pleasure to have you today. How are you?
Thank you, Frank. I am great. How are you? And I hope that our listener is doing great as well. So hello to them.
Absolutely. Uh, I'm doing well, and I'm excited to ask you this first question because you probably already know what it is. And if not, I know you've thought about it.
I think I heard the arch nemesis come through already.
The arch nemesis is everywhere. Why is copy important when we all have AI?
Oh, I okay. I thought you were going to frame it differently, so at least I can give you a better answer and not get so mad at AI. I will say this. I mean, so AI can be used as a tool, right, to write copy for us if we so choose. Um, Personally, and I know that some people say it has found their voice and it sounds exactly like them. And I have not found that to be true. I have not found that to be true, even when I teach it exactly how I talk. So at this point, at the juncture we are at, and actually, let me go beyond just like it being able to emulate your voice, because that's not wildly hard to do. But it does not have, and I would be curious if you agree on this. I can spot AI copy a mile away. It doesn't have the heart and soul of like somebody's true genuine emotions that has had an experience for themselves. That's what I found. I would be curious to hear what you think.
So this is a great back and forth. I'm actually glad you asked that because I've heard people say that. And the first thing I would say is when I go read something, my brain does not consciously go, is this written by AI? Or
Mm.
like it just doesn't really think about that. Like that and maybe it's because, I'm over 50 years old and so it's just my conditioning. But my brain never even really thinks about that. But it's a valid question, right? Is this generated by AI or not? And what I have found is I always go back to when I was in college. I had a teacher. I took an art history class. Hands down, the most boring class I ever took. No offense to any art listeners, but it really wasn't about the art. And the reason I say it was the most boring class is, it was an auditorium style hall, but not a huge auditorium, maybe 50, 100 seats, whatever it was. She would always dim the lights, right? Right. And it's like right after lunchtime.
I
Not a
think
good
we were in the
combination
same
for
art
college
history
students.
class.
We might have been there. That's right. And then back then, we didn't have the projectors we did today. We had those overheads where they put the little thing on the flat panel, whatever, and they
Yep.
would have this telescope projecting up, showing my age. But the problem was she spoke perfect monotone, perfectly. I mean, she
Yeah.
would rival the teacher in Charlie Brown all day long without and so imagine this was like an hour and a half, 2 hour class of perfect monotone. Some of the best sleep I ever got. I mean, so because there was zero engagement.
Yeah.
Now, if you talk to her one on one, different experience. But in front of the room, perfect monotone. Why do I bring this up? Um, I personally don't try to judge that because I really don't know 99% of the people the stuff I read.
Yeah.
So I don't know if they might be as monotone or boring or whatever as that teacher I had.
Okay, well you raise a great point actually. So I think the problem for me is if we are all using the same tools. I mean, there's not really a ton to choose from. Okay. So if we're all using the same tools and we're saying, emulate my voice, it is still, like I said, I don't think it's perfect. I don't think it's actually emulating our individual voices as much as it is just the collective stuff it finds on the internet and on Reddit and like, whatever deep dark spaces it gets into. Um so I think if we all start doing that, and our language and speech is going to start being very uniform and very monotone and very sameness. And for me, for the work I do, which is all about helping people stand out and be different and be the most them that they are to attract the most aligned clients that they can get, that doesn't work. Then we have a disconnect. Well, then it's like, okay, I'm not going to plunk you into the sea of sameness if I'm trying to help you stand out and be different. I want you to be the most you can be. And I will admit, I always am very open about my usage of AI. I do use AI for, like, it has helped me save a lot of time, right? It helps me kind of put things together strategically when I need to present an idea and I need to kind of like bullet it out. I don't use it to write things for me because I don't think when I'm listening to my clients, it really is about getting to the heart and soul of what they're trying to say. And like I go deep into their minds and then I pull out the most unique threads of that, like the most distinct pieces of them. And thus far, I haven't found AI is able to do that in my place. So that's why I say I still think a human can do it better. I think it can be really useful to help a lot of people give structure to these posts that are going all over the place, right? Or these podcast episodes that are just rambling and don't have any sort of direction. It's like, get an outline in place for yourself,
Yeah,
please,
sure.
and use AI and have it like tighten it up a little, right? But I think that's a really nice way to use it is like tighten up what you already have and help you show up in the most you way you can and even more powerfully because you are being tight and you're intentional and clear in what you're sharing. That's my human defense.
There you go. Well, it's what you said really, it aligns with how I think, and that is AI is a wonderful tool to jumpstart your mind.
Mm-hmm.
You can use it like to when I write a simple example that everyone understands, write a post on social media. Very rare is the post I put online going to be AI. And if it is, it's because it's some kind of generic thing and or maybe I'm in a rush. But generally speaking, the stuff I put on social media is actually me talking. But what I have found is the power in AI is really in our own mind.
Mm-hmm.
And what I mean by that is when we put our brain power into it, the more brain power we put into it, the more useful it can be. And a lot of times, what I have found, and I'm in real estate, is I'll put a question in or a thought or whatever it is, and it'll give me a response. And a lot of times, that response will tell me something that I already knew. I just hadn't thought about it in that scenario.
Yeah, yeah, it's really great at asking you questions that you maybe wouldn't have thought to ask yourself, which I love. And sometimes I want to say this. Sometimes I think it's important to challenge yourself to not use it at all in the ideation and thinking process because I don't know about you, but I don't want to lose touch with the side of myself that just knows how to research something and think something
For sure.
through, on my own. So, and like I loved, for example, in college doing papers. Like that was my favorite thing, like a book report or paper on something. And I use a lot of those same techniques in preparing for podcasts, in preparing for my clients. Like I do a lot of research and I never want to lose that love and I never want to lose that skill. So, there are a lot of times I just say, you know what, I'm going rogue and I'm doing this on my own brain power. Like I would say 90% of the time I try to make sure I do that.
Love it. Love it. Well, in today's world of business, you've been hosting this podcast. You've had thousands of conversations now between your episodes and all these clients you have. What are you seeing as something that helps consistently separate content that really lands with people? Like, and I mean, we just say, well, I'm writing and not just AI. Yes, but beyond that, like I'm in real estate, for example. I've got a colleague right now. He talks about he's been studying copy for years, and he's like, this is hard work, and it is hard work. I've spent time with him. I'm gonna like go crazy going over this, right? Just I'm just trying to do a Facebook post. Why is this so hard, right? So, and how do you? What are your thoughts after all these years and conversations on this is how we do things at Land?
I Before I answer that, I want to ask you what the hard part is. Is it starting? Is it finding clarity for your thoughts? Is it, making sure you're saying something in this quote unquote way that you should be? So tell me what the hard feels like.
I think a lot, there's a lot of ways I could answer that. So I'm going to try to summarize what could easily be 25 different answers, literally. And that is if I'm going to take the time to share a piece of information, at the core of all of it is how do I know this is going to A, be valuable to somebody,
Mm.
and B, that they will take action on it. Maybe it's to call me, maybe it's to do something for themselves, whatever it might be.
Okay. So I think you started with a really important element in there, and that is somebody else. I think honestly, the biggest mistake and the biggest challenge because of that mistake is most people just start with themselves. They start with who am I as a business? What am I offering? What do I have to sell? What do I have to promote? What do I want people to do? What do I. And a lot of sites I'm sure you've seen them, you go to the websites and it's just like the them show, right? So you started in the right place. And that is what is somebody else experiencing when I'm sharing this piece? And I always think it is important to start there. Who is the person on the other side? Because that's all copy is exactly what you and I are doing right now. It's a conversation. Copy is the exact same thing as what your listener is doing right now. They're just overhearing the conversation, right? So, how am I speaking in a way that speaks directly to them? And to do that, you always have to begin by knowing the person. And this is like my best ever, this is my best copy tip. And the way that I come up with things that people write me back and are like, oh my God, you wrote that for me. I start in my mind with one person I can think of that I know is going to read that email, that I know is going to read that social media post. Like think of it as
Mm.
it's a great client and it's also somebody who is like, yeah, Frank, go Frank, right? They like you. They've got your back. They want to comment on your stuff to support you. So it's not your troll or like the snarky person online, okay? And I think of them in detail and I just write as though I'm just writing to them. So when I sit down and write that email, I'm only writing to Christy. I'm only writing to Amy. I'm only writing to Andy, right? And I'm just sitting down with what they've just told me in my mind and writing to them. And that's when you get, I mean, a lot of writers say this, the specific is universal. That's when you get people writing back to you saying, oh my God, me too. Or like, I do that too. Or I'm like that also. And it's a lot of people because it's so specific and tangible that it relates to more people, if that makes sense. Um, and the other thing you said the word information. And I think it's hard because when we are sharing online, I don't know if that's always what people want is information. I think sometimes it's what they want, but I think more often we need to think, what does my customer really want or need today? Most of
Yeah.
the time it's not information. Most of the time they can go find information someplace else and they're not coming to you for information. They're coming to you for your perspective, your spin on information, your experiences, whatever it is that is through your lens. So I've seen it used to be common to kind of like rotate your content with like a fact or, a tip or whatever. And now I'm seeing that become less common. And I think people just aren't engaging with it as much anymore. It's because like we can get tips anywhere. We listen to
Right.
20 podcasts a day and we're infiltrated with tips. We want to hear your perspective on things. We want to hear your ideas around things. So you make it personal to them and you also make it really personal to you. And when you find that blend, it's like a bridge to your ideal clients rather than like a chasm, You're no longer,
Yeah.
hey, who's out there? Now you're speaking right to them and saying, come on over.
That reminds me of, some I've heard in church many times is, you hear a pastor share and you're like, I feel like you were talking straight to me.
Yes,
Yeah,
yes, exactly. And it's an
that's
art
it.
of speaking as well, where they'll focus on a couple people in the audience and they look right at them, right? And you're like, oh my God, they've got me. They've got my number. And really, they've practiced that speech many, many
Right.
times, but you feel like it is directed right towards you. Another way, I think, to make it more fun and to make it less feel like a challenge is to use storytelling whenever you can. And it does not need to be some grand story about how your life changed because a car almost fell on you and you lifted the car, in an act of heroic feat or whatever, in a heroic feat. It can be as simple as like a very mundane story about your day. People relate to those mundane details of our day. They are what make us all human. We all pull our pants on one leg at a time is how the phrase goes. So
Hmm.
using those details, that's super relatable because chances are high most of the people reading have had that experience sometime throughout their day and probably sometime throughout their day recently. So I love using stories of the everyday because that also helps people feel really seen and it helps take the pressure off you. You're like, okay, I'm just going to share a story, and tie this into whatever I'm trying to talk about.
Mm, I love it. I love it. I actually wrote down here something you said, the them show, and I was like, maybe we should start another podcast. We can co-host it. Welcome to the them show, and
I
I'm like,
love it. I'm
what
in.
would that look like? It sounds real. Maybe we can talk about that, but it's a very interesting idea. Uh, Let me ask you, you've worked with business owners in all these different industries. How do you think business owners misunderstand, if maybe misunderstand is not the right word, but maybe it is, deal with this idea of attention versus connection?
That's a great question. So I think that attention it can be passing, right? And it kind of shifts around from whatever our brains are doing I think the brain on average, don't quote me on this, but I think on average it is wandering like 48% of the time during the day. So me
Wow.
asking to capture your attention when your brain is just like I don't have control of that. You barely have control of that. So
But yeah, hey,
attention
that's a lot.
attention is hard to pin down. Let me just say that. And it also depends because people have different levels of attention. Like I might look at something that is a clickbaity headline and be like, nope, not giving that my attention. Somebody else may come along, look at something with a clickbaity headline. Actually, my mom and it's a great example. She sees something on Instagram that's like one of those shiny little ads for a special tea or like, mushroom that's going to help her think better. And she buys it. I look at those things and I'm like, junk. That's just trying to sell me some garbage, right? Snake oil. So I scroll right on by. So you can see attention is almost something you have very little control over. Whereas I think connection, that we have a little bit more control over. That is just, I am a human and I understand what pieces, when it comes to businesses and service providers, I understand what piece of being a human is challenging and hard for you right now. And I'm going to meet you there. Like, I get that problem you're facing, and I'm going to meet you right there. And we're just going to be ourselves making that connection. So I think that's something you have a little bit more. I don't want to say control because you can't control how somebody receives your words or your message, but you have control over how you show up. So I know when I'm sitting in this chair, for example, all the tabs on my computer screen are shut. my text messaging is off, I'm here for you, Frank, and I'm here with my full attention and presence because I want that connection is important to me. So I think you can show that almost more than you can tell it, if that makes sense.
Mm. Show reminds me of the old Rush song. Show, don't tell. It's a good
Yeah.
song. So it's amazing how our minds connect
I
dots.
Well,
Or
that's your distraction working. There you
I
go.
mean, to your point, almost 50% of the time our mind is wandering, and I'm like, that is a serious lack of focus.
Yeah, yeah. And that is just the state of the human mind. I mean, that's why meditation is important, right? Because we need to recognize that there's something in there doing things we're not controlling.
So let me ask you, if you're in a position where literally half your waking moments is distracted, is that really just an indication that maybe you're not doing what you should be doing? Maybe you're in the wrong career field. Maybe you're not, something's not. I mean, that's a serious lack of focus. Is that indicative of maybe rethink what you're doing? Maybe you're just in the wrong lane.
I think that's an average, but I think about it like if you're reading a book or listening to a podcast or actually engaged in something, maybe like a project, I'm sure it's different. But if you're just wandering around the house, I actually I don't want to stereotype, but I do think uh, those who identify as women might relate to this more. But like, let's say I'm bringing a load of laundry up the stairs, right? I've had like 56 different thoughts coming up the stairs about like things that I need to do, what I'm pulling for dinner tomorrow night, like it's all over the place. And or like, oh, I need to respond to so and so, right? That's what I mean. I'm not talking about like when you're sitting down at your desk, but although some people might have that
A lot of
experience.
people hate their job.
Yeah, yeah. And I would say that's a good indication. If you're distracted when you're working on something you quote unquote should love or want to love, might be a good indication that you don't love that thing.
I heard somebody say recently, a lot of people say they love what they do.
Hmm.
And I thought this was a really, really cool example. It's like, oh, I like what I do. I like my job, or maybe I'm a business owner. I love my business. We'll use that as, I love my business. That's such a passion. If somebody gave you a check tomorrow for $10 million, $50 million, would you still do it?
Well, I want to hear your answer.
Well, just the idea was, if the answer is no, then maybe we need to go a little deeper on what it is we're actually doing.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's a really fortunate position to be able to take. Not everybody gets to love what they do. I think it's all really about our life circumstances and a lot of the choices that we make along the way. So I feel that way. I always I always joke like if we won the lottery, people would not know for months because I'd be like still working. Be like, I just got to wrap up these clients and work with these people, and then I'll decide what to do after that. But I probably would do exactly. I would at least be writing, that's for sure. So I think it is if you're in the position where you get to ask yourself questions like that, I think it's a very valid one.
Well, you said earlier you loved doing book reports. I said that is the sign of a writer.
Yeah.
I said that's a giveaway right there. She loves
Yeah.
writing reports. How many people say I love writing reports? If you love writing reports, that's it. I love it. I love it. You talk a lot about curiosity marketing. First of all, in your words, what is that?
Okay, you're going to love this, I think. So, the way I even stumbled upon this topic was because I was curious about curiosity. I was like, is a person just born naturally curious or do you have to like cultivate that? And then that took me into curiosity marketing. And I was like, I like this a lot. So, curiosity marketing, well, there is something called a curiosity gap. And the curiosity gap is basically the distance between what you know and what you don't know. So for every one of our clients, there is a curiosity gap between what we know, what we could know could help them, and what they know. Okay. But we have to show them why that is interesting, why that is, why they might want to know what we know. So we are then creating that gap, like, ooh, tell me more. And there's a lot of different ways. Like we can brainstorm some individual ways you might use this depending on the type of content you're creating, but it's all about opening that gap up so that you're more likely to keep somebody's attention on what they're reading or what they're listening to. So you're letting their curiosity for me, and it feels different for everybody, I think, but it's kind of like an internal like pull or heat or fire where I'm like, oh, have to follow this idea. Like I had 10 ideas for my January podcasts. And I sat down, I started working on one, and I was like, oh my God, this is doing nothing for me. Like this feels like nothing. So I just ripped up the idea, started fresh with my next idea. And I was like, okay, now I feel it. Like now I feel the pull, the curiosity, the electricity, like whatever that is. So we want to create that for our clients as well. And that is simply how do we get them excited to know what is next, to know how we can help, to know what the next solution is. Instagram is a great place to study how to capture people's curiosity. It is so good at keeping you scrolling, at keeping you swiping, like, ooh, got to get to the next slide, got to see the next thing, right? It is so good at keeping people's curiosity engaged. Is it real curiosity? Sometimes, yes. Sometimes it's probably just, dopamine. um,
Serious distraction,
yeah,
yes.
yeah, yeah. But it's a good example in that of like, all right, you want to see your own curiosity gap in action, go over and find some content that you're interested in, let yourself go down a Reddit rabbit hole, like whatever the case may be. So we can dive into tips and tricks and or not, I don't like tricks, but tips and don'ts and things like that as much as you want to. We can talk about granular content types.
Love it. Love it. So let me ask you, and we're not gonna. Personally, I don't really like Instagram because I watch it and I find it to be incredibly annoying because it's so loud.
I hear you.
And
I
by
go on it with
nature, I'm
my
not a
volume
loud
down.
person, so I'm just like, yeah. And it's you got people, rah, everyone's rah, rah. I almost feel like it's a scream fest from scroll to scroll, and you're just
Yeah.
like, just stop.
I go on
So
Instagram with my volume down and I go in looking for very specific types of content. I
yes,
don't
yes.
I don't like reels. The video just doesn't really actually do it for me, so it's hard for me to like comprehend. But I am so with you.
Yeah, it's just, and some people love it, right? Everyone's wired different, so that's cool, and and all good. Let's shift gears for just a moment, and that is, what did you do before copywriting? And yeah, like let's start there. What did you used to do?
Well, that's why I followed my curiosity. I
Exactly.
studied I studied health in school, like in college. And I was like the first, well, I worked for a lot of chiropractors and gyms and, health professionals and health food stores and things like that. And I always found myself in their marketing role. Like I would always be the one
Mm,
writing the emails or putting together the event workshop flyers, things like that. But it took me a really long time to put those pieces together. All I knew is that eventually, someday, I wanted to have my own business. I did not want to work for somebody else. That is what I have known since I was like 6 years old. I'm like, so how
wow.
do I get there? So at one chiropractor's office, I was fortunate enough to like do a little bit of like health coaching. Like basically I would put together like a plan for somebody and then we would meet for accountability. And this was before like health coaching was like really a thing. I was kind of like in this little back office, taking notes, making up my own process. I don't know. I was a young woman, so I don't really know where this all came from, but clearly must have been something in my education. So anyway, through all these transitions, I find myself working for this mattress store down south. And in working for them, I got like really immersed. Like I was their first employee. And so I got to be the one doing like the sales and the marketing and like a lot of the behind the scenes numbers and stuff. So I was able to see revenue and coordinate deliveries. And like I did a lot of things in their business and I really got to see the inner workings of it, which I loved. So when I was working for them, I said to myself, I think I can do this business in New Hampshire. And I think I can actually do it like a little bit, not better. I can do it my way. And so
Fair.
when we moved back up here, I did. I opened a store similar to theirs and had a retail business for 5 years with my husband. And it was fine. It was successful. The numbers made sense on paper. Neither of us were wildly happy in the role that we chose. I had a lot of time on my hands. I was very isolated in that little store. And when people did come in, I was kind of just repeating the same thing over and over and over again. Wasn't meeting a lot, it just wasn't very fulfilling. And he wasn't very fulfilled in it either. And he already had another business on the side. So it was kind of just like, all right, we need to figure out what to do. So we closed the business and it was in the process of closing that. I just sort of people would ask me like, can you help me write my newsletter? Can you help me fix my website? Blah 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 blah. Can you write thank you cards for me? Because I don't know what to say to my clients for the experience. So I would just take on all these little things. And by the time we had closed the store, I had built up, at the time I was retainer model. So I had built up like 16 clients on retainer. And I was like, well, I guess I have another business. So I honestly just sort of followed all the little threads of my life. I mean, I have had 42 jobs in before I was the age of 35, I think. And I have worked in restaurants and done my time, in some of the worst jobs. And somehow I landed where I did. That's my answer. I don't know how to make it more concise or more grandiose, I guess.
So you had an entrepreneurial thought at age 6, you mentioned.
Yeah, I mean, it comes at me from both sides. My grampy had a store. My family on the other side had a store, all in the same town, and I've just
Yeah,
always been this really intrepid kid that's like, let's do something.
exactly. So you were surrounded by it, you grew up with it, you then become an adult, and now you go through 42 jobs. I'm like, wow, that is a lot. So
It was too much.
it's a
I
lot
moved. I
about,
moved a lot.
but it's a lot of exposure. I gotta wonder what the 40th boss was thinking. Like, why should I hire? Will you be here in a week? Like,
Okay, Frank, the secret is not to list them all on your resume.
well, that's fair. That's fair. That's, I hope not. That'd be a really long resume.
Yeah.
But you're 42 jobs in, you're doing all these different things. Now you're getting clients and stuff. What was the moment where you said to myself, I'm all in on being my own business owner?
Okay. What a fantastic question. It took me a while. So we closed the store in 2018, and it took me probably 3 years to really niche down into copy specific. Like I was doing a lot of other stuff, which was not enjoyable. Um, it was not until 2023 that I had another business. It was like a memberships. It was a membership, and I did like events and workshops and things like that. It kept me very, very busy. And I decided I was taking away from my copywriting business by having that business going as well. And it was a lot on my mental health to kind of like run two things. So I closed that. And it was during that time I said, I am taking a bet on myself. I'm going 100% in on me. And it was like this, that was actually the scariest moment. Starting the store, not scary. Closing the store, not scary. Starting this business, not scary. It was that moment in 2023 when I was like, it's this right now or nothing. And it was very, very terrifying. I would love to know your answer to this. Like, did it come right away when you stepped into real estate, or did it take a little while?
I mean, I walked away from my former life like cold turkey.
Yeah.
Yeah, for me, it was overnight. I mean, it didn't happen overnight. It happened over 3.5, 4 years, something like that. But when it happened, it was like boom.
Yeah.
Um, but you said in 2023, so it's 3 years ago now. You were like, all right, this is, but you were already running a business.
Yes, yes. I mean, I was doing everything, but I was, because I had two things at all time. I always had two things going. It was always like Emily has two businesses, two initiatives, two things. And so I was able to really conveniently hide behind the membership. It was so easy. Like a lot of people when I closed it didn't even know my name. They didn't even know what I did. They just knew that they were part of this membership that somebody was running and they did events and got exposure and things. So that was really it, is saying like, okay, I'm also Emily Aborn and I'm okay with people knowing what I do and knowing about it.
Gotcha.
It was very like, yes, I do that, but don't hire me. That kind of thing.
You were a business owner, but now it was like almost like a rebirth of,
Yeah.
yeah, I've been a business owner, but now we're going to make it publicly known.
Yeah, 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 yeah. I was always like the behind the scenes of my own businesses, if that makes sense.
Gotcha. Yeah. Behind the brand. And we've
Yeah,
seen that, right? Because a lot of
yeah,
people are like, you want the business to be known by the brand.
yeah,
And yeah, if you're Nike, sure, that makes sense. Like nobody cares who the CEO of Nike is these days, generally speaking. But we're in small business, that's a different ball game.
yeah. I agree.
Love it. Got it. Got it. So, I noticed you had run a brick and mortar business. You just talked about the membership business. Now you're in the copy and content business. If you could sum up, and it's kind of a broad question, but if you could sum up all these conversations you've had prior to saying, hi, I'm Emily, and I'm doing this for me now, and I can help you. How did all that experience shape up to that moment in time how you communicate today, especially, considering what you just said of, I am now coming out from behind the shadows.
The I think that the I think that I take a very collaborative, I like to think, I should say, that I take a collaborative approach to communication. So, this is a great example, and this is like one of my favorite ways to communicate is when we are coming together to create something that doesn't exist yet. Like this conversation has not happened yet anywhere else in the world, between you and me and the very unique person who is listening right now. That mixture has never happened. So I like to think that I take a very collaborative approach no matter how I'm doing things. If I'm doing a solo podcast episode, I try to really like be collaborative with my listener. If I'm writing something, I try to be collaborative with the person reading it. I want you and I to be collaborative. And that means, being reciprocal, right? So when I show up on time, I'm respectful. I'm trusting that we're going to do this together. We both bring our skills and our passion and our talent and our excitement to the table. So that's, I think, my answer. I know that's a little bit layered. But yeah, I think collaboration has always been really important to me. But I think I've learned a lot in getting burned. And I've also learned a lot in like the type of communication styles that I do well with versus not. That when two people are collaborating, it's anything that you put your minds to together is going to be successful.
Mm, mm. You talked about, and it's interesting, we're talking about collaborating. So from behind the shadows to now, I am collaborating openly. It was, did it ever feel like at some point that you were reclaiming your voice?
I have a pretty strong voice. No, not strong. I have a pretty distinct voice of myself. I think I have refined it over the years to not be so maybe blunt, not to be so, I have certain tendencies as we all do. Um, but I think reclaiming actually came even after that, if I'm
Okay.
honest.
Okay.
Yeah. So I think last year I really kicked things up another notch, like when it came to my branding and just the overall like experience you're going to get with my business. Like I elevated that client experience, all of it. And I think that's when I started saying, now I'm reclaiming my voice. Now,
Mm.
and my reason is not selfish. My reason is because I want to help as many people as possible. And so I'm approaching anything I'm using my voice for in that way. So it was more about reclaiming it because I really, really care about the people on the other side. It's not just a voice to have a voice, I guess. Like you don't want to ask my opinion on certain things because I don't have a voice in that space.
Fair.
Yeah.
Love it. Now, kind of piggybacking on this thing about your voice, you also host a podcast where you talk about the curiosity, the creativity, the copywriting, and so forth. But as a podcaster, just like anything else in life, we're not always inspired. There's going to be days where we're just like, "Ugh, I don't want to do this." Even though you know it's going to be great because you always feel great at the end, but I'm busy, I got things going on, I didn't feel inspired. You talked about the laundry. The laundry's a mess from earlier, whatever it is. And so the inspiration is not there. How do you handle, like, what goes through your mind to generate? And you talked about, I want to be talking to someone. I don't want to talk to that one person today. I'm not inspired,
Mm.
right? How do you get past that roadblock when it's like, all right, it's time to, the show must go on, for maybe it's the podcast, or maybe it's that client and they're counting on you for this copy. I'm like, I don't want to deal with that today. So,
Okay, I have three ideas that are jumping out at me. It's going to be different for everybody. So I want to give a range of ideas. So, one, when it comes to that conversation where you do not want to have it with the person, I've so been there. What I would say to that is that inspiration often finds you working. That is not my unique phrase. I think it's like one of the greats, but inspiration doesn't just appear out of the sky. Motivation doesn't just fall out of the sky. You have to sit down, show up, and then so often it follows. And I know that's like, oh, come on, Emily. But really, it's like, I mean, Mel Robbins has it condensed to like that simple 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, right? Like 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, go. But it really is oftentimes that simple where it's like, maybe I don't want to do this thing, but once I sit my butt down in the chair, I can almost always find the connection and that connection leads to the curiosity. Let's say that is like, okay, that would never work for me. I can't even get myself there. I can't, none of those tools are working. Then you have to figure out the things that inspire you kind of outside of what you're doing. So for some people, it would be like putting on a great dance song that they like to dance to. I've heard people do that. That's like how they raise the energy before they get on one of these calls, or they do a little bit of working out before they get on a call. Or they indulge in some little treat like a chocolate or something like that after the call to kind of reward themselves. So I think sometimes those kinds of things are exactly what you need to be doing, like rewarding yourself almost or unnaturally boosting your energy and your excitement where it might not exist. And then third, we talked about this at the beginning, but if you are genuinely not like if I sat down to do my podcast every week and I was just not inspired at all and never excited or motivated, I would take a good hard look at why that is the case. Whether it was the conversations I was having, the topics I was covering, the podcast itself, I have to have a good hard conversation with myself as to why this is just never feeling fun to me. I'm the kind of person, I'm very motivated by planning. Like planning and preparing actually helps me to get it helps me to stay consistent on the days that I'm not feeling inspired. So, for example, if I map out an outline and podcast, it is then ready for me to sit down and record. Now, I might have on my list record it on Wednesday, but if I sit down Wednesday and I'm not in a good, like if my voice and my mood and my affect is not exactly where I want it to be energy wise that day, I will make space in my, like, I'm like, okay, I know I can do that on Thursday. I know I can do that on Friday. Right. So I'm buffering in time for myself for that to come back. And then a lot of people are just like the last minute kind of people. You wait till the 11th hour and boom, suddenly you're inspired. So that might
Yeah.
work for some folks too. But for me, preparation is the way I overcome that, because if I'm ready with something, like I would have a report done like a week before it was due, because that way if I want to go in and work on anything on the report, like edit it, I've got all that time where I can be refining it. So that's my MO, but I know that that doesn't work for everybody. But yeah, I think the number one, no matter what we're working on, is sit your butt in the chair and start pushing the pencil. And that's usually when the inspiration starts to rise.
It's so true. We just got to show up. Seems like no matter what it is we're doing,
I know.
step one, show up.
I know, but it's actually encouraging, because it's like you can celebrate when you just show up to something. It's my friend Andy Lyons. She says this about networking. She says when you are going networking, like if you're a person who really doesn't like networking, or you're an introvert and it scares the living daylights out of you,
Mhm.
celebrate the fact that you showed up. Like walk in the door and be like, yes, I did. I did it. I actually did all I need to do for myself. Like I could walk out the door right now. I'm still going to celebrate that I showed up. So I think that's a really like also chances are once you step in the door, you're not just going to walk out, right? Once you put your workout shoes on, you're not going to take them off and be like, never mind, I'm not going for a walk. So I think that really is the key. And I think it's like celebrate that. And that actually also can be a good way to boost your excitement for doing the thing.
I love it. I saw something that said you help people step away from the blinking cursor. It reminds me of this book. I had this book. I still have it. It was a cool book by Disney Imagineering, their team or whatever. I don't know who the exact, but I bought it at Disney World several years ago. And they drew. It was a blank piece of paper, but it was a picture, it was a page with a bunch of words, but it had a photo of a piece of paper that was kind of humanized. It had arms, it had legs, and it was charging toward you. And they said, and the caption read, "The attack of the blank sheet of paper." And the idea was kind of piggybacking off inspiration, that here you have, you need to do something, but you feel like this blank sheet of paper is attacking you
Yeah.
because you're just drawing a blank. And then it would go on in that. As a copywriter, a lot of businesses feel like they have a blank sheet of paper when it comes to marketing. What's your step one to tackle your client? Like if I came to you tomorrow as a client, you didn't know me, we didn't know anything about podcasts, and I said, Emily, I don't know what to do, and I tell you, and you're like, he has no idea what he's doing. The blank sheet of paper has no idea what he should do next, other than I should post them on social media, I should make a flyer, but like none of the stock stuff. What do you tell people first?
So I think well, there's two ways to go about it. One really good technique for getting over the blank sheet of paper to get yourself going is you don't need to write anything that is going to be published. When you sit down to write something, let's say you're not on the app, okay? You're not on LinkedIn. You're in like a Google Doc, okay? You can that's messy. You can make that messy, so you can literally start by being like blah 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 blah. I don't know what to write. I had soup last night. I'll be having leftover soup tonight. I'm looking forward to it. Then I'm going to have a cup of tea. Then I'm going to watch Netflix. I don't know what to write. I mean, you can do that until something starts coming, and that is a writing technique that a lot of writers ascribe to. You also can kind of take like what I would do for you, or what I would do if I had somebody in front of me and I was trying to help them pull out what they were trying to say, is I would probably ask them a lot of questions. And this is where you might actually use AI. You might say to AI, I want you to pretend that you are a homeowner, in North Carolina, and you're looking for a luxury home in today's market, blah, blah, blah. What question would you need? What question is burning on your mind today? And AI spits out a couple, give me 10 questions. And AI spits out some of those questions. And then you then respond to those questions in what you're writing. I love questions. Like that does help me to write.
Mhm.
You can also look up like different prompts for your industry. AI can help you with that too. So I think with today's tools, it's a lot easier to overcome that blinking cursor for sure.
Mhm.
Um, but I always like if I'm real stuck, I just write and I don't worry about editing it. I just let it be messy and I let it be like whatever it is, and then I can go back and edit it later. That's an important thing to remember. It doesn't have to be this perfectly polished magical thing that comes out of you the first go. That's why you edit things and you refine things.
Mhm. Love it. So, we're a world that's craving automation more and more. You mentioned AI, and so just kind of circling back to the automation for a moment. A lot of business owners are gonna feel overwhelmed by content creation, right? And we know, and most people do because you see these pressures like you need to be consistent, you need to post every day, every week, every 2 days, whatever it is, right? And so it's like there's this spoken loudly oftentimes thought online about you have to perform is really what it comes down to is as a business owner you have to perform to the point where it clouds the idea of why we're even doing this in the first place, right? The pressure to perform becomes more important than the actual value that you can provide to, to use your example, which I loved, that one person you're talking to. Is there a structure you recommend to people or that you use to say, you know what, let's not overcomplicate this because we live in a world that's really good at overcomplicating the simplest things, right? We take all these tools and all of a sudden we have more information we know what to do with. Is there like a step-by-step process you use just at a super high level where a listener listen to us talk today and say, you know what, do A, B, C, maybe there's not even a C, maybe it's just an A or an A and B, so that you've established step one in structure that can bring you results. Kind of like you said earlier, you just walked in the door. Congratulations, celebrate that. What
Yeah.
would that look like for the business owner to take on the world of copywriting slash content creation?
So yeah, can you tell me what outcome you're looking for? I want to make sure I'm clear on what task we're tackling.
Well, a lot of people just they don't even know what they're tackling. Like it's like they hear I should post on social media.
Okay,
We'll
gotcha.
start with the most simplest thing.
Okay, gotcha.
A business owner goes on Instagram. You should be posting on social media every day in order to have success in your business because all the marketing on social media, if you're not marketing on social media, you're leaving money on the table, right? The whole thing.
Okay, gotcha. Okay. Yeah, I guess I have a simple framework, for lack of a better word, that I mean, it has worked for the past 20 years, I think, that I've been marketing and doing marketing work for people, and I haven't seen it change yet. So this is my little secret.
Love it.
Um, every month, and you can do this, you can look ahead or you can just kind of do it as the month arises. But every month, I choose one theme for the month. So some months that will be collaborations. Some months that will be like this month. I don't announce this theme. Nobody even knows it's happening. It's just up here and like written on my content page. This month, for example, it's branding from the inside out. So what does that look like from the inside out? So I come up with a theme for every single month. And
Mm,
then all of my podcasts go under that theme. All of my emails go under that theme. My emails, same as my podcasts, or very similar. Like everything is kind of cohesively working together. All my social media posts go with that theme. So I'm not ever overthinking what I'm posting. I just know all I have to do is come up with a theme, outline the episode and then just kind of like take what I've done, what I've already created. If you don't have a podcast, you can do this with a blog. You can do it with, a newsletter. You can just do it with you can just long form everything or break it out into pieces and start with pieces. So you don't need to do it any particular way. And then I'll tell you like the super easy, most easy formula for posting on social media. It's just a rotating schedule of something personal, something promotional, something inspiring or motivational, or yeah, inspiring or motivational, and then something that is helpful. So that's it. Just those four things: helpful, personal, promotional, inspiration, or most motivational. And I just kind of like repeat those exact same things on a cycle that go along with my theme. And then again, I'm not overthinking the wheel. And you can, people mix that up however they want to. I just do one, two, three, four. Um, and that has not changed. And it is just a way to get you out of your head and make it a whole lot easier for yourself. So you could literally sit down, start a page in your notebook or in your Google Doc and say, this month's theme is XYZ. Here's the thing I'm promoting this month or the things I'm promoting this month. So I'm going to need promotional posts about that. Here's the tips and education I want to help people with. Like I said at the beginning, we don't want tons of those. Here's the motivational and inspirational things that go along with that theme. Here's some personal behind the scenes, fun facts, stuff about my own life that I'm willing to share this month. That's it. And then you just rinse and repeat.
Love it. So, business owner you take on as a client executes what you just said. And maybe it's social media, maybe it's not. Maybe it's like a local print company, right? Maybe it's a dry cleaning company down the street. And they're just trying to get more people to go over the little thing there that makes the thing go ring ring. There's someone at the drive-through kind of thing. Like whatever it is, brick and mortar, online, doesn't matter. They execute on what you just said. What is a realistic expectation?
Well, when I was sharing that framework, it's more specific or tailored to content creation, like be it on a podcast or on social media. Um, I think a realistic expectation is that you're going to be consistent. And the more you do that over time, the more you will attract clients and customers. I don't think any of these, I think the number one thing I have learned in business is that nothing is a short game. It is all a long game. And I will sit down and do something again and again and again. And then 3 years later, I start to see results, right? So it is really about consistency. And I think that's what you can expect. You can expect that, okay, now I'm consistent with the thing. Now I have actual data that I can associate where these clients are coming from. I'm able to see, oh, have my clients increased since I started sending this thing out regularly, since I started educating people in this area. So you basically now have a way to track your success. I think it so depends for whether you are a local business, whether you are, how's your website, like how's your branding. There are so many factors. It is I what I really don't want is for people to put content or social media or even all of their eggs in the basket of whatever they consider marketing. It's a pie. It is kind of like one of those pie charts, right? So there's all these different slices of our marketing that go into that pie. So you being really, really consistent in one area, you also want to make sure, the rest of the pie has some pieces and some flavor in it too. So I think
Yeah,
that's my answer is maybe you can expect something, but you sure as heck can expect that now you're going to have something consistently to show for your efforts.
love it. Last question. You've been in marketing over 20 years, as you said, in various capacities, run business. Now you're stepped out, been doing your thing now for a few years. So you're still building, still impacting, still making things happen. where do you see that, in a world where copywriting is arguably more valuable than ever with all the AI, which is going to make people that can do it authentically well. Some people say, oh, you won't need them anymore. No, I think you are going to need them even more, as you said, and I agree with you. Where do you see what you do combined with AI? People always say 5, 10 years, it's moving too fast. 2 years from now, where do
Yeah.
you see it going?
I am a pretty, I am optimistically cautious when it comes to that. I genuinely don't know the answer. I know what I hope is the answer. I know that I hope that all the people that are creatives and makers and, offer services that use their brains, I hope that those people still have a job, in at the rate that AI is going. I don't know that is going to be the case. So I'm always trying to make sure that, I have my kind of ear to the ground, as they say, on like what other opportunities are next. And I know that if that happens, I'm savvy enough, I'm resourceful enough, and I would encourage, a lot of people just go straight to the doom and gloom of it. And I was for a while. I was super like down in the dumps. I'm gonna lose my job. I got to go back to school, get my master's, like become whatever next thing I'm gonna be that AI can't replace. And now I've taken a little bit more of a like, you know what? I'm going to wait and see approach, but I'm not going to lose sight of the fact that I might need to come up with another option. And that's a reality, so I'm cautiously optimistic is my that's my answer. And yes, I hope that humans survive in a weird way. I wouldn't hate if we just kind of like shut it all down or slowed it down or put some regulations in place, where this can't just get out of control and replace everybody's jobs before we're ready for that to happen. Uh, and I also don't know that that's going to be the case.
Well, yeah, I think, and maybe we can elongate this for just a moment. I see a world where I think the creatives are going to be even more valuable because, to your point, a lot of stuff will become so stock, for lack
Yeah.
of a better word, for some things, maybe not everything. I think we're going to come to a point where, yeah, we're going to AI. I mean, AI is obviously not going to go anywhere, just like Google never went anywhere.
Right.
But now we're in a day where Google is having to reinvent itself. I don't think anyone expects Google to go out of business, but they're having to reinvent some things now with the advent of AI. And they've already started because they've integrated it right into their browser. So obviously they're figuring that out. So I don't think the creatives are going to go anywhere, quite honestly. I think it's just going to evolve.
Yeah.
And the question is, do we choose to evolve with it or not? Because it's all going to evolve one way or another. But if there's one thing I've learned is human authenticity never goes out of style.
Yeah. I'm with you, and I'm hopeful that that comes with our paychecks.
I
Yeah.
think it will.
Yeah.
It may look a little different, but I think it will. So,
Yeah.
or maybe it won't look that different. Who knows, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, so I'm sorry, I don't have a good answer for that. I don't know. I can't predict the future. I've tried many times.
None of us have a crystal ball. It's all good. Regardless, people are still coming to you because we need your services in this world. The reality is we need people like you that bring that level of creativity, the curiosity, as you mentioned, the ability to probe into a part of our mind that, quite frankly, makes us come alive. And so I think it's going to work out beautifully in some form or fashion. So I think it'll all be good. So I want to thank you for coming on. I really enjoyed this conversation and the depth of it and the thought. Certainly, and I definitely took some notes. Still got the them show. I like that. So to our listeners, if you're looking for work in the space of copywriting, as long as there's marketing, there will be copywriting, and we're going to need that unique spin. We're going to need those things that are inherently us. I think me and Emily are both of the camp that AI is never going to fully replace that. And if you need copyright services, her links will be below. If you want to connect with her, reach out to her, because it's something that, quite frankly, every business is going to need to some degree, oftentimes a large degree. So, Emily, I want to thank you for coming on. Just again, very insightful, very thought provoking, and just very, very real. And I really appreciated that. Can you leave us with a final word?
Well, thank you so much for having me, Frank. It was a delight, and I agree. We went a lot of deep places. I think my final word is going to just be a reminder to sit down and you or use that resource of speaking or writing to just one person on the other side. Because I think when you do that, you're going to find that it opens up one, your curiosity, and two, it's going to make it a lot easier to communicate because you're not feeling like you're speaking to the masses. So go back to that just one tip. I challenge you to do it. And if it doesn't work for you, come track me down and find me and tell me because I want to know.
Love it. Love it. Well, thank you again, Emily. Definitely looking forward to continuing the conversation.
Thank you, Frank.